He he has been convinced during the election campaign and soon after that tariff is the best way to correct the huge trade deficit which was in favor of all these countries whom he has targeted. So he wants to balance because of the debt, because of the interest, and because of the vicious cycle in which America has got into. He wants to take America out of that pit which previous administration, including himself in the first administration, has landed America in. So, which means it will fuel inflation, it will fuel unemployment, it will push America to recession, so on and so forth. So, this coordinated effort by these three blocks is really hurting America. This is just the starters from these three countries. We took a head lead as far as Prime Minister Modi's policy is concerned by talking to the Americans even before the American trade representative came. Prime Minister Modi went there and they agreed, both the leaders agreed that a trade agreement will be sorted out by fall, by September, October. And with that in mind, the Americans sent their top South Asia trade representative. But apparently, the 4-day talk made no headway, and even after the intervention of the Prime Minister's office, nothing was agreed because the demands made by the American representative were so outlandish, were so unexpected that the bureaucrats who were leading the Indian delegation, they were shocked and not prepared to discuss anything, but because that was not their brief.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought provoking conversations. US President Donald Trump has clarified now that no country would be getting off the hook on tariffs, despite a 90-day temporary pause on some levies. He has also dismissed reports suggesting that Chinese made tech items like smartphones and computers might be exempt from the trade measures. What he has posted on the social media, he has insisted, if you look at the tweet carefully, he has, and I'll just read out that tweet for you. He has very clearly said that nobody is getting off the hook for the unfair trade balances and non-monetary tariff barriers that other countries have used against us, especially not China, which by far treats us the worst. There was no tariff exemption announced on Friday. These products are subject to the existing 20% fentanyl tariffs and they are just moving to a different tariff bucket. The fake news knows this but refuses to report it. We are taking a look at semiconductors and the whole electronic supply chain in the upcoming national security tariff investigations. What has been exposed is that we need to make products in the United States and that we will not be held hostage by other countries, especially hostile trading nations like China, which will do everything within its power to disrespect the American people. We also cannot let them continue to abuse us on trade like they have for decades. Those days are over. The golden age of America, which includes the upcoming tax and regulation cuts, a substantial amount of which was just approved by the House and the Senate, will mean more and better paying jobs, making products in our nation, and treating other countries, in particular China. So basically, he's retorted back because there were reports that there were some 20 broad categories of items which US has apparently exempted from the tariffs. So that thing has come out clearly. He's retorted that back. But what does it mean? Because till yesterday, everyone was reporting that it seems that Donald Trump has surrendered before China. So, what does this positioning by Donald Trump look like? We'll try and discuss this. Joining me this evening is diplomat and international affairs expert, Professor Aftab Kamal Pasha. So, thank you so much, for joining on HW News. And it's wonderful to have you on the program, and especially on a day when there's a lot of confusion on this tariff regime, where this it's like a blow hot, blow cold thing. But at the end of it, Trump makes it sound that it's victory for him and not for any other nation. Till yesterday, we were discussing that apparently China seems to be having an upper hand, and especially after he announced that he's exempting certain number of items. Now, when he says that nobody is off the hook and this is just a temporary pause of 90 days, no country will be exempt, what does it mean? And what does this posturing by Donald Trump actually mean?
Well, Donald Trump is now becoming well known for his contradictory policy, zigzag policy, or he is doing such great harm to America and the global economy that he has left all the leaders, especially major trading nations like Canada, Mexico, European Union, China, Japan, and South Korea, Vietnam, India. All these are, worried what is actually triggering Donald Trump to talk about tariffs, then pause, and then again clarify that it doesn't involve the products which was widely in circulation, especially electronics and smartphones, iPhones, and laptops, and so on and so forth, because America is a very large importer, because most of the American companies which manufacture these products for the American people and export abroad, they shifted because of the high cost of living to China and elsewhere. So now the dependence of America on these products is so heavy. Not only the new statement from Donald Trump brings these products which are in great demand under the ambit of 145% tariff, but it will also hurt the American consumers in a big way, because if these products become expensive, the internet savvy American people, where 90% of the people are dependent on these smartphones and social media, and to connect themselves and for business and for all purposes. This would undermine the revolutionary changes in information technology which have linked America with the rest of the world, because most
No,
of the
but what I
Americans
want
are.
to understand from you, Professor Pasha, is that till yesterday, the social media was abuzz with the story that it seems that Trump has surrendered before China because he knew that if he doesn't take this positioning, then apparently the tech companies like Dell, like Apple, they will not benefit. And it is for their benefit that he exempted those duties. Now that Trump turns back and says that no, we will try and look for other options, what does it mean? I mean, is he scared of the negative media coverage, because he has mentioned that as well in his tweet? What does this positioning mean, that he's still trying to show that he's the one who is ruling everything what is happening around?
Yes, he wants to be seen as the key person. He has become addicted to, when all the TV cameras, wherever he goes, they keep asking him for clarification for anything new. So, on the other hand, he is also under tremendous pressure from his corporate friends who now have to fight the high tariffs and the prices and dwindling market for their expensive products, because now people will, instead of buying this highly imposed tariff products which are coming from America, they would travel abroad and buy. It will be cheaper for them to book a ticket to Europe or nearby Canada or Mexico and buy these products. So it is going to affect and undermine the corporate sector, their profits, whom Donald Trump wanted to help them. So now he is caught between this conflicting pulls and pressures of trying to salvage his image as the topmost decision maker and what he has promised to make America great and golden age and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, if he gives exemption to Chinese products because of his corporate friends, it will tarnish his image. So his contradictory policy is because of this. You can see this in Gaza, in Ukraine, in Iran, everywhere. He announces something, and when he hits the wall, he pauses and he goes back and he gets stuck and he feels frustrated. So that is reflected in his in and out policy of what he wants to do and what
No,
he
but
cannot
I
achieve.
also want to understand that does it look like that Trump is surrounded with two sets of advisors? Maybe one set is in favor of the tariff and the other set is not in favor of the tariff. That maybe this is the reason why he's flip flopping so much. One day he announces, then one day he withdraws, then again he comes back. Now, why is there so much of uncertainty in what he has been saying for months? I mean, he has been talking about tariffs since his campaign days, and now this kind of a flip flop. Is it happening because that there are two sets of advisors to Trump, as I said, one is supporting and the other one is not supporting tariffs?
That is what I mentioned in my previous comments. You see, he has been convinced during the election campaign and soon after that tariff is the best way to correct the huge trade deficit, which was in favor of all these countries whom he has targeted. So he wants to balance because of the debt, because of the interest, and because of the vicious cycle in which America has got into. He wants to take America out of that pit, which previous administration, including himself in the first administration, has landed America in. Whereas if he pursues this policy vigorously and implements, it will hurt his friends, corporate friends who have funded him, who are surrounded, and Elon Musk is the most important one. He has said this in no uncertain terms that the tariffs are not good. But he's lying low because he is outsmarted or outgunned by the other people who are now advising him that he should stick to the policy of tariffs no matter what happens, because ultimately we have to take China into consideration and this threat from Chinese exports to India, which are quadrupling and intensifying in all sectors. They
Right.
have to reduce the dependence.
Right. In fact, all the American newspapers today have reported on this particular story. Now, say, for example, The Guardian, it has its headline, the big title of the story: Trump warns exemptions on smartphones, electronics will be short lived, promises future tariffs. So, what does it mean? Does it not mean so much of uncertainty now for the investors? How do we see the things happening, and how do the countries now position themselves? Either they are with China, either they are with America. And there's no backing down from China as well. China has categorically said that yesterday also, China's Ministry of Commerce had said that whatever US has done by exempting certain categories of products is too little. And and they also said, Ministry of Commerce of China, they also said that somebody who's tied a bell onto the neck of a tiger, it will be upon them how they untie that bell. So those kind of comments coming from China, and now suddenly Trump saying that nobody is off the hook. What does it really mean, and how will the countries position themselves, especially countries like India?
You see, China doesn't agree with this partial exemption which was announced. They want complete wholesale removal of the tariffs for bilateral trade and under the rules of trade policy which they have pursued for long. It wants unhindered exports from China. Likewise, the European Union, Canada, India, and Mexico, all of these countries. But some are willing to negotiate, like India, because of political, strategic, domestic reasons, European Union or Canada and other countries. So it's a mixed baggage. But what is really causing concern, of course, is China is at the top, but America's own friends like Canada, the European Union, and Japan, secretly they are downloading the billions of dollars worth American government treasury bonds which they have bought. You see, America's external debt is something like 8.53 trillion as of now, today, and out of which Japan has $1 trillion worth of treasury bonds. The European Union has 1.5 trillion dollars, and Canada has about $350 billion. So, in order to react to what Trump has been doing on the tariff scene, the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, he is in touch with European leaders. He went to Europe on this issue, and the Japanese Prime Minister also was there, and they have quietly downloaded the large quantity of American Treasury bonds into the market. In fact, they have flooded over the last couple of days, and this had a telling effect on Trump and all his economic advisors who were upbeat about sticking to the tariff policy, so on and so forth. So, what does it mean? What does the steps from Canada, European Union, Japan mean? It means that the bonds would be sold, and the money which has been parked by these three great players is used by the Americans to finance their military budget, their social security programs, and tax cuts, so on and so forth. Right. So now, if they are selling these bonds, America has to offer higher rate of interest for other potential buyers to buy these bonds. So, which means it will fuel inflation, it will fuel unemployment, it will push America to recession, so on and so forth. So, this coordinated effort by these three blocks is really hurting America. This is just the starters from these three countries. So once the 90-day pause ends, this will accelerate. More American bonds will be sold, and American dollar will depreciate, and American China, of course, is a big threat. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But
No, but this
quietly
pause.
and in a very
Right. But in this entire controversy on the tariff regime, whether how strong tariffs Donald Trump wants, do you think that China, in this course of time, has emerged as a much stronger player than America?
Absolutely, no doubt about it. China is defiant, and it is virtually threatening America of countermeasures, and it has already imposed counter tariffs, which no other country has done so far. So, in that way, China's bargaining capacity is unquestioned. They are the primary manufacturing power, no matter what critics say, and their export capacity is far, far beyond by any country. So, in that way, China's bargaining position is very high, and their hardened position reflects their confidence that no matter what America does, what tariff level they impose, there is no escaping of the products they have complete sway in the international market. So in that way, they know that this will hurt America more than China. So in that way, China's position is unique, and America also knows this, and that's why they are in two minds whether to continue the tariff regime or not. tariffs to pacify the corporate sector, which is up in arms.
So my point is that now, how should India position itself? There's a lot of uncertainty on the tariff regime. We do not know what Trump says something and does something else the second day. In this kind of a scenario, how will Prime Minister Modi balance himself between the two nations, America and China both?
You see, we took a head lead as far as Prime Minister Modi's policy is concerned by talking to the Americans even before the American trade representative came. Prime Minister Modi went there and they agreed, both the leaders agreed that a trade agreement will be sorted out by fall, by September, October. And with that in mind, the Americans sent their top South Asia trade representative. But apparently, the 4 day talk made no headway. And even after the intervention of the Prime Minister's office, nothing was agreed because the demands made by the American representative were so outlandish, were so unexpected that the bureaucrats who were leading the Indian delegation, they were shocked and not prepared to discuss anything, but because that was not their brief. So even at the highest level by the Prime Minister's office, in other words, Prime Minister himself, this logjam has not been resolved, which means the challenge is very severe, and it could boomerang on political stability because farmers will be up in the arms and the nascent industry which we have protected so guardedly since independence, that will slowly be undermined. And we from China and other countries who are waiting and watching. We don't want to rush and conclude a hasty agreement by offering everything, which was the impression created earlier. But now better sense seem to have prevailed, and we have adopted a cautious approach as far as agreeing or towing the American line on the tariffs. So let us see how the
Professor
90-day
Pasha,
pause.
right. But Professor Pasha, are we in any position seeing a scenario where China will prove itself as a bigger superpower than America? And I think maybe America can see that, Donald Trump can see that happening, and this is why he's so jittery and nervous.
Yes, you see, the Chinese have built up such extensive contacts through the Belt and Road Initiative all over the world, and the network is so strong and sustained at a high level that even the European Union in Latin America, in Africa, in different parts of Asia, now they feel threatened with the United States tariff. They see the only viable alternative is what China is proposing. So this tariff war, in a way, will only isolate the United States further and devalue or reduce the value of dollar and accelerate the process of BRICS and South-South cooperation, including from the European Union, because the high energy cost at which they are buying American oil and gas is not leading to public satisfaction there. They want to get the Russian cheap oil and gas because of the Ukraine conflict, which was suspended. So in that way, the European Union also, which is major part of which is part and parcel of the Belt Road Initiative, they would like to see China as a great trading partner because they have become dependent on China export and imports. So in that way, America pursuing this policy will isolate and it will be lonely in this path, and no power can undermine or stop China from what it is doing. So unquestionably, China is on the path of replacing America. You see, the other point of the Americans and the West is that not so much the West, but specifically Americans is. You see, if Donald Trump and his advice, they think that if we impose such high tariffs of 145 plus, if they impose more, this will create to the political problems on which they want to capitalize, because all their efforts to undermine China through Hong Kong, through Taiwan, through Uyghur Muslims and various other things, it has not made any dent on China. So they want to use the economic weapon to weaken and ultimately work for the overthrow of the Communist Party or disintegration of China, which is far fetched under the present circumstances, because the stranglehold of the Communist Party and the security military forces is fairly strong, and China has the resources, economic resources. It can withstand the tariffs. It can pump resources and keep the consumer level up to this satisfactory level. So in that way, the tariffs are not going to undermine or satisfy the American strategic goals of hurting China
Right.
economically and through that politically also.
Right. Thank you, Professor Pasha, for joining on HW. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.